There is a pan in your sink right now with a quarter-inch of grease standing in the bottom of it. It is still warm. It is still liquid. It still looks like something a person could reasonably pour. And in about 4 seconds you are going to tip it down the drain and run the hot water after it, the way your mother did, the way I did before I knew any better. Here is what happens to it. That grease travels maybe 11 feet. It goes through the trap under your basin, through the wall, and drops into the horizontal line running under your floor. By the time it gets there, the water carrying it has cooled to the temperature of the ground under your house, which across most of this country sits somewhere between 55 and 65 degrees. At that temperature, it stops being liquid. It goes back to being a solid, on the inside wall of a pipe you will never look at, in a spot you cannot reach, and it waits there for the next thing that comes down to stick to it. I have cut those pipes out of walls. I have held them in my hands. There are sections of kitchen line I have pulled out of houses where the hole left open in the middle was the width of a pencil. Everything else was grease. My name is Ray Kessler. I have been a licensed plumber for 31 years. My father was a plumber, and his father dug and set clay tile before that, and in 3 decades of crawling under other people's floors, I have learned that almost every drain I get called out for was not broken. It was fed. Somebody put something down it, a little at a time, for years, and then one Sunday in February the water came back up through the shower, and they called me. A plumber charges somewhere between $150 and $450 to clear an ordinary drain. Mainline work runs $250 to $800. If it has gone hard, and we have to bring the jetter, $350 to $900, sometimes more. If the pipe itself has failed, replacement is $50 to $250 for every foot of it. And the thing that would have prevented all of that costs nothing, because it is an empty coffee can and a $2 sink strainer. Today I am going to give you the 4 things I would take out of your house if I could, in the order that they cost people the most money, exactly what each one does inside the pipe, and what to do instead. The 4th one is the one that should make you angry, because the first 3 you did by accident. The 4th one you paid for, and it was sold to you as the fix. Stay with me. Let me start with what nearly everybody gets wrong, because if you do not understand this part, none of the rest will make sense. Your drain is not a chute. It is not a hole into nowhere. It is a pipe, 1.5 inches wide at the sink, sloped 1/4 inch per foot, and gravity is the only thing moving anything through it. There is no grinder in there. There is no current. Water goes down because it is heavy, and the pipe leans. Anything that is heavier than water, or that will not stay dissolved in water, does not go anywhere. It goes to the first low spot and stops. Number 1 is fats, oils, and grease. Bacon fat, pan drippings, the film off a roasting tray, gravy, butter, mayonnaise, salad dressing, the milk fat in cream. The Federal Environmental Agency has put the share of reported sewer blockages caused by grease at close to half. Utilities in this country spend on the order of $25 billion a year on this, and between 23,000 and 75,000 times a year, a sewer overflows somewhere because of it. In London, they once cut out a mass of hardened fat weighing 40 tons that had taken up 80% of the space inside a public sewer. That is not folklore. Men stood in it with picks. And here is the trap most people fall into. They think hot water and dish soap solves it. It does not. All you have done is emulsify that fat and buy it another 20 or 30 feet of travel, which puts it past your cleanout and out under your yard, where the only way to reach it is a machine on a truck. What you do instead is this. Keep a metal can under the sink, a coffee can, a soup can, anything with a lid. Pour grease into it while it is warm, let it set up, and when it is full, it goes in the trash. Wipe the pan with a paper towel, before it ever sees water. That paper towel goes in the trash too. That is the whole method, and it is what my mother did, and what her mother did, and it is the single reason her kitchen line was still clear when we sold that house. Number 2 is coffee grounds, and I am including with them eggshells, rice, pasta, flour, and potato peels, because they all fail the same way. Coffee grounds do not dissolve. They are dense, fibrous grit, and they behave in your pipe the way sand behaves in a creek. They settle. They collect in the belly of the trap and in any place the line has sagged a little over the years, and every house that has been standing 30 years has a sag in it somewhere. Then the grease you rinsed off yesterday arrives and binds them, and what forms is not a clog in the way you are picturing it. It is a core. I have sawed a section of kitchen line open and slid out a gray-brown cylinder that held its shape in my hand like something dug out of a riverbank. Now, somebody is going to tell me they have a garbage disposal. I want to be plain about this, because it is the most expensive misunderstanding in the American kitchen. A disposal is not a treatment plant. It shreds soft waste into smaller pieces and hands them to the same 1.5-inch pipe. With coffee grounds, it does not even shred, because they are already small. All it does is stir them into the grease, which is the one thing you did not want done. The starches are worse in their own way. Rice and pasta swell for days in standing water. Flour and water is paste, and it does in your trap what it does in a mixing bowl. Grounds go in the trash or on the garden. Solids get scraped into the bin before the plate ever gets rinsed. Put a $2 mesh strainer in the drain and empty it into the trash. That is it. That is the whole defense. Number 3 is wipes, and I need you to hear me on this one because the word on the package is not regulated. Take a wipe out of the tub and put it in a glass of water tonight. Toilet paper is engineered to come apart, and it will be gone in about 5 minutes. Come back to that glass in the morning, a full day later, and the wipe will be sitting there in one piece. You will be able to pick it up and wring it out. That is because most of them are held together with long synthetic fibers that are meant to stay strong when wet, which is the entire point of a wipe and the entire problem with flushing one. They do not clog your line by themselves. They snag on a root intrusion or a burr at a joint, and then the next one snags on that, and they weave. Field crews who have pulled apart pump blockages and sorted what came out have found wipes making up roughly 1/3 of the material. The National Association that speaks for clean water utilities put the operating cost of wipes at somewhere around $440 million a year, and a single serious clog at a municipal lift station runs a city between $4,000 and $20,000 to deal with. Same goes for paper towels, cotton swabs, dental floss, cotton balls, tampons, and cat litter. 3 things go down a toilet. Everything else goes in a lidded can beside it, and if that feels unrefined to you, I would ask you to weigh it against standing in your own basement in rubber boots. Now, number 4. The bottle of drain cleaner under your sink. And this is the part I want you to sit with. Those bottles are one of 2 things. Either lye, which is sodium hydroxide, or sulfuric acid. Both of them work by chemical attack, and both of them throw off real heat doing it. Here is the problem, and it is not complicated. If your drain is slow, the product runs on through. If your drain is actually stopped, which is when people reach for it, the product cannot go anywhere. It sits in standing water, directly on top of the blockage, working on whatever it is touching. What it is touching is the inside of your pipe. It corrodes galvanized steel and copper, which is what is in the walls of every house built before the 70s. In plastic, it softens and it warps, and the heat concentrates right at the joint where the glue is, because that is where the low spot is. It degrades the rubber gasket in every slip joint it reaches. And it does not do this once. It does it every time, and the damage stacks, and the leak shows up 18 months later behind a finished wall, and nobody connects the two events. A long review of hospital data put drain cleaner injuries in this country at roughly 3,000 a year, and about a third of those are burns. Ask any plumber you like whether he will open a trap in the first day or two after you have used one. Most of us will not, and we should not, because when that trap comes loose, it comes down on our forearms. So why is it on the shelf at the front of the aisle? I am not going to tell you there is a villain. Nobody held a meeting about your kitchen. It is simpler than that, and it is worse than that. That bottle costs $9, it runs out, and it is sold in a way that guarantees the same person comes back for another one, and then another, and eventually calls a plumber anyway. There is no money in a coffee can. There is no advertising budget for a mesh strainer that lasts 11 years. Nobody can build a business on telling you to scrape a plate. The old journeyman who trained me said something on a job site in the rain once that I have never gotten out of my head. He said, "Most of what I fix is not a broken house. It is a habit." He was right, and the good news buried in that is that a habit is the one thing in your plumbing you do not need a license to change. So here is what I want you to do this week. Put a can with a lid under your kitchen sink tonight and pour grease into it instead of the drain. Buy 2 mesh strainers, about $2 each, one for the kitchen and one for the shower, and empty them into the trash. Put a lidded trash can beside every toilet in the house and flush nothing but the 3 things. Take the drain cleaner out from under your sink and get rid of it properly, and replace it with a cup plunger and a hand snake, which together run about $30 and will clear the great majority of what you will ever face. Once a week, run the hot tap into the kitchen sink for 2 full minutes while the water is at its hottest, with the stopper out. That is your whole system, under $40, one trip to the store, and about a year from now you are going to be standing at that sink watching the water go down the way it went down when the house was new, and you will not think about it, and that is exactly what it should feel like. Tell me in the comments below how old your house is and what your pipes are made of, cast iron, galvanized, copper, or plastic, and whether your kitchen drain is already slow. I read every one of them, and the ones you send back are the reason I keep making these. Next time I am going to show you the 2 rubber hoses behind your washing machine, why they fail on average between 8 and 12 years in, what happens to a house when one lets go while nobody is home, and the $10 part almost nobody has installed that makes the whole question go away. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, keep a can under the sink, scrape the plate, flush the 3, and remember, the men who built these houses with their hands knew things we are only just starting to